Hi everyone, welcome to my channel Knitting for Baby. Thank you for watching and thank you for subscribing. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to knit this super easy baby bonnet. Now, this little bonnet, I made it to match the little cardigan that I already showed you. This one here, this one is for a baby from 0 to 3 months. Down here in the information box, I'll leave you the link to that tutorial. Okay, so I hope you like it, and without further ado, let's get started, and thank you for watching. Okay, to begin, I'll be using these 3mm knitting needles, and today I'm using this baby yarn. It's Drops Baby Merino. I'm going to use two colors. I'm going to use white, and I'm also going to use this color pink. Okay, so here to begin, I cast on 64 stitches. Here at the end, I like to tie a knot here. I already have a tutorial in my channel on how to cast on your stitches. You can use any method. I used the long tail cast on. I'll leave a link down here in the information box on how you can cast on your stitches. Okay, so here, like I said, I have 64 stitches, and the first thing that we're going to do here is we're going to knit one, purl one, knit one, purl one. So beginning with this first stitch, we're going to knit. The next one we're going to purl, knit, purl, knit, purl. This is how I'm going to continue for this first row. So continue like this. I'll meet you here at the end to show you what we need to do next. I'm here at the end of the first row. Here, my last stitch is going to be a purl. So we're going to purl. There it is. Now we're going to turn. And now we're going to do the same thing. Since my last stitch here was a purl, in this row we're going to knit. The next one we're going to purl. Knit, purl, knit, purl. Continue like this to the end for the second row. I'll meet you here to show you what we need to do next. Okay, I'm here at the end of the second row. This last stitch here, we're going to purl. Okay, that's the second row. Now we're going to turn. And here we're going to repeat the same thing. The first stitch we're going to knit. The next stitch we're going to purl, knit, purl, knit, purl. Continue like this to the end of this third row. I'll meet you there to show you what we need to do next. Okay, I'm here at the end of the third row. This last stitch we're going to purl. Now we're going to turn and we're going to repeat the same thing. The first stitch we're going to knit. The next stitch we're going to purl, knit, purl, knit, purl. Continue like this for this fourth row. I'll meet you at the end to show you what we need to do next. Okay, I'm here at the end of this fourth row. Now this last stitch we're going to purl. Okay, like this. Now we're going to turn. Now here, what we're going to do is I'm only going to do 4 rows here for our knit one, purl one. So now for the fifth row, we're going to knit the first stitch, knit the next stitch, knit the next stitch, and so on. This is all we're going to do for this fifth row. Just knit every single one of these stitches. Continue like this, and I'll meet you at the end of this fifth row to show you what we need to do next. Okay, I'm here at the end of the fifth row. This last stitch we're also going to knit. Okay, now we're going to turn. For the sixth row, we're going to purl each one of these stitches. So beginning here, this first one, I'm going to actually slip, and the next stitch I'm going to purl. So purl each one of these stitches like this. Okay, continue like this to the end. I will meet you there to show you what we need to do next. Okay, I'm here at the end of this sixth row. Now this last stitch I'm going to knit. Okay, now we're going to turn. For the seventh row, we're going to slip the first stitch here. And we're going to knit each one of these stitches like this. This is all we're going to do for the 7th row, so continue like this, and I'll meet you at the end of this row to show you what we need to do next. Okay, I'm here at the end of this 7th row. Now this last stitch we're also going to knit, and there's row 7. Now for row 8 we're going to purl each one of these stitches. I'm going to slip this first stitch, and I'm going to purl each one of them like this. Okay, so continue like this for this 8th row where you purl each one of the stitches all the way to the end. I will meet you there to show you what we need to do next. Okay, I'm here at the end of this 8th row. Now this last stitch we're also going to purl. Okay, and there's the 8th row. Remember, we have a total of 64 stitches. Now here for this first row to our pattern stitch, we're going to stop using this pink color, and I'm going to grab this white color. So with the new color, we're going to knit the first stitch like this. Okay, hold on to it, bring it through the front, and take that stitch off in this color pink. Now pull your yarn so that that stitch closes a bit, and now we're going to knit the next stitch as well like this. Okay, so we have 2 knit stitches. So now here we're going to go into the second stitch. 1, 2, go down 2 stitches, 1, 2, insert the needle there, grab this loop, pull it, now put it on the needle, and you're going to pull on this loop so that it's nice and big, and you're going to hold it there. Now these 3 stitches we're going to pass them to this needle without knitting or doing anything. So here we're going to go through the back. Don't go like this and take them off. No, you're going to go through the back of the stitch like this and remove them. 1, 2, 3. Now this white stitch, we're going to remove it and pull your yarn. See, there's that V stitch. Now we're going to knit the next stitch like this. Now we're going to repeat the same thing we just did here. So we're going to go into the second stitch. 1, 2, go down 2 rows, 1, 2, insert your needle there, grab this loop, bring it through the front, and put it on your needle like this. Now pull on it so that it's nice and big to give you room so that you can slip these next 3 stitches to this needle. We're not going to knit or anything. We're just going to pass them to this needle. So we're going to go through the back leg and remove them like this. 1, 2, 3. Now this white loop, let it go and pull. See? Now the next stitch we're going to knit. And again we're going to repeat the same thing we just did here. You're going to go into the second stitch. 1, 2, go down 2 rows. 1, 2, right there. Grab this loop like this. Put it on the needle like that. And pull on it so that it's nice and big to give you room to now pass these 3 stitches to this needle. And through the back leg, remove them. Don't remove them like this, but rather go through the back. This changes the position of the stitch like that. And now let go of this stitch, pull on it, and there it is, another repeat pattern. Again, the next stitch we're going to knit and go into the second stitch, go down 2 rows, grab this loop and put it on the needle like this, make it nice and big, and remove the 3 stitches to this needle. Very easy stitch. You just need lots of patience, like this. Now remove the white stitch, let it go, and pull, and there it is. Now we're going to repeat again. Make sure that the tension that you give on all of these stitches is the same. Here I think I pulled too much, so we're just going to grab this loop here and release some of that tension. See, there it is. Okay, now knit the next stitch, and one more time, let me show you. Go to the second stitch, 1, 2, go down 2 rows, 1, 2, insert your needle right there, right in the middle of the stitch. Grab this loop, bring it through the front like this, put it on this needle, make this loop nice and big to give you room to remove these 3 stitches to this needle. 1, 2, 3. Now this loop, remove it from the needle and pull on it, and there you have it. Knit the next stitch. Don't forget to knit the next stitch, and then repeat this stitch. Continue like this all the way to the end. I will meet you there to show you what we need to do next. Okay, I'm here at the end of this first row to our pattern stitch. One thing here, I made a mistake when casting on my stitches. I think I did 1 too many. It should have been actually 63 stitches that we should have casted here at the beginning, so no problem. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and knit these 2 together like this. This is so that at the end we have the same 2 stitches like we do here at the beginning. So if you're watching this video and you haven't cast on your stitches, cast on 63 stitches instead of 64, and that way you don't have to do these knit 2 together here. You're only going to be left with 2 stitches here at the end after you make your last pattern stitch here. So here we're going to knit 2 stitches. This is going to be a little hard because it's 2, but there it is. If you cast on 64, we're going to knit 2 together here at the end. There it is. And that's how we fixed that problem. Now we're going to knit the last stitch, and this is how we're going to finish this first row to our pattern stitch. And there it is. If you count each one of these stitches, now we have 63. Now for the second row, we're going to turn, and we're going to knit the first stitch like this. You can either knit the first stitch or you can just slip the first stitch. I think I'm going to slip the first stitch. Now here we're going to purl 2 stitches. 1, 2. Now with the yarn in front, we're going to pass a stitch like this, and we're going to purl 3. 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to pass the stitch to this needle, and we're going to purl 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, pass the stitch to this needle and purl 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, pass the stitch to this needle and purl 3. 1, 2, 3. Pass the stitch to this needle and purl 3. 1, 2, 3. Pass the stitch to this needle and purl 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so pass the stitch to this needle and purl 3. 1, 2, 3. Pass a stitch to this needle and purl 3. This is how I'm going to finish or continue with this second row. Okay, I'm here at the end of this second row to our pattern stitch. Here at the end, we're also going to purl the last stitch. And that's how we finish this row. Now we're going to turn this over like this. And then this row, we're going to knit each one of these stitches across. So the first one, you can either knit or just pass it to the stitch. I'm going to knit the stitch, knit the next, knit the next, knit the next, and so on. Here, this is all I'm going to do. We're going to knit each one of these stitches all the way to the end. Continue like this, and I'll meet you there at the end to show you what we need to do next. Okay, I'm here at the end of this third row to our pattern stitch. So now to finish, this is our last stitch. We're also going to knit the last stitch like that. Now for the fourth row, we're going to turn, and in this row we're going to purl all of these stitches. Now this first stitch, I'm going to just pass through the needle like this, and I'm going to purl each one of these stitches all across. So this is row 4. Continue like this, purl each one of the stitches, and I'll meet you at the end to show you what we need to do next. Okay, I'm here at the end of this fourth row. Now this last stitch, same thing, we're going to purl. And that's how we finish the fourth row. Now we're going to do one more row where we knit and then we come back and purl. So now what we're going to do for row 5 is, one thing here, I forgot to carry this yarn at the same level as the white yarn. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it there and I'm going to bring the white yarn under it like this. And now we're going to have it at the same level. I should have done this when we started row 3, but I forgot. So here, what we're going to do is for row 5 is we're going to knit. For row 6, we're going to purl. So for row 5, we're going to knit the first stitch like this, knit the next stitch, and so on. So you're going to knit row 5, then you're going to turn and purl row 6. I will meet you at the end of the 6th row to show you what we need to do next. Okay, I'm here at the end of row 6. This is where we purled. So this last stitch we're going to purl. There it is. Now we're going to turn, and here what I'm going to do is, you can do two things. You can make 4 rows with the color pink and repeat the flower pattern, but I'm doing this as a bonnet, so what I'm going to do is I'm now going to let go of the white color and I'm going to pick up this pink color. So now for row 1, we're going to knit, then we're going to purl, knit, purl, knit, purl. So from here on, that's all we're going to do. Knit 1 row, purl the next. Knit 1 row, purl the next. So now beginning here in this row, we're going to knit each one of these stitches all the way to the end. When you're finished, you're going to turn and you're going to purl the second row. I'll meet you at the end of the second row to show you what we need to do next. Okay, I'm here at the end of the second row. I purled each one of these stitches. Now we're going to turn and we're going to repeat the same thing like I said. So here we're going to, you can either knit the first stitch, which is what I'm doing, and you're going to knit the second stitch, knit the next, and so on. From here on, that is all we're going to do. When you're done with this row, you're going to turn, then you're going to purl. So I'm going to show you one more time, so I'll meet you at the end of this third row, and then I'll show you what we need to do next. Okay, I'm here at the end of this third row. So here what we're going to do is we're going to knit these last 2 stitches like this. Then we're going to turn for the 4th row, and we're going to purl each one of these stitches. Now this first stitch we're going to slip, and here we're going to purl each one of these stitches. Now this is all I'm going to do for this 4th row, so continue like this and I'll meet you at the end to show you what we need to do next. Okay, I'm here at the end of the 4th row. This is where we purled each one of these stitches, so this last one I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to purl. Now we're going to turn. From here on, we're just going to repeat these 2 rows where we knit the first row, then we purl back, and then knit, and then purl back. So here, just to start you off, in the next row, row 5, you're going to either knit this first one or you can slip the first one. I'm going to knit the stitch and then knit the next, and so on. When you're done with this row, you're going to turn and then purl and then begin again this row where we knit every single one of these stitches. Okay, so continue like this and I'll meet you at the end of this row to show you what we need to do next. Okay, I did a total of 35 rows and it's measuring from here to here. It measures about 5 inches, which is about 12.5 centimeters. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, remember, we have a total of 63 stitches. We're going to bind off 23 stitches, then we're going to knit 17, and then again we're going to bind off 23 stitches. So let me show you this next row. So here, I think I'm going to slip this first stitch, then I'm going to knit the next stitch. This first stitch that I slipped, I'm going to bring it over the stitch that I just knitted, like this. This is how we're going to bind off these 23 stitches, like this. Okay, so you knit the next stitch, and this stitch that's here, you're going to bring it over the stitch that you just knitted. Okay, so continue like this until you have completed these stitches here, and then I'll come back and show you what we need to do next. Okay, I finished casting off 22 stitches. I still need 1 more. Since I have 1 loop here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove that stitch marker. I'm going to knit this next stitch, which is part of the 17 that I had here. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to knit this stitch, then this stitch that's here, we're going to bring it over this stitch that I just knitted. And that completes my 23 stitches here on this side. And this is the first stitch to this 17. So here we're going to knit these 17, so that's 3,
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16,
and 17 stitches. Now I'm going to remove this stitch marker, and we're going to cast off these 23 stitches here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to knit the first stitch, knit the second stitch, and bring this stitch here over the stitch that I just knitted, like this. Okay. Now we're going to keep these 17 here, and we're going to bind off these 23. So knit the next stitch, and this stitch, bring it over the stitch that you just knitted, like this. Knit the next stitch, bring the stitch over the stitch that you just knitted, and so on. This is all I'm going to do until this part here is done. So continue like this, and I'll meet you at the end to show you what we need to do next. Okay, I'm here at the end. I just need to cast off 1 more stitch. So here I'm going to knit the last stitch and then pass this stitch over the stitch that I just knitted, like this. Now I'm going to cut my yarn, but I'm going to leave a small tail. This is going to be used to sew part of the hat, so make sure you leave a little tail here. I'm gonna leave, I don't know, about 12 inches or so, about 20 inches actually. And cut your yarn, and then here all you're going to do is just pass your yarn through this last loop. Now that part here is done. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back here, we're going to turn this like this, and we're going to, I'm going to insert this hook here to this stitch right here on this side, and bring it through the front and tie a little knot here like this. Now we're going to purl this row here. These are 17 stitches that we have, and we're going to do this for a total of about 23 rows. So we're going to knit and then purl, knit and then purl for about 23 rows. Okay, so here. So this next stitch here, I'm going to purl. So bring the yarn in front, purl the first stitch, then purl the next, whoops, purl, purl, and then purl across. Okay, so this is the last stitch and you purl. So now we're going to turn and we're going to knit this next row. So we're going to do this, like I said, for 23 rows. Knit one row, purl the next for a total of 23 rows. So this first stitch I'm going to slip, and then the next stitches I'm going to knit like this. So I'm going to knit all across, then I'm going to turn and then purl all across. So continue like this, and I'll meet you once this part here has about 23 rows, or about that much, and I'll show you what we need to do next. Okay, I did a total of 23 rows. Now what we're going to do is we're going to cut our yarn. I already did mine, and we're going to leave a small tail. This tail is going to be used to sew this part here once we're done with the hat. So now we're going to leave these stitches alone for now, and we're going to come here to the side right here, and we're going to pick up some stitches here along the very edge. So to do that, we're going to go into this first stitch here. I'm going to do this with the crochet hook for this first stitch. So go into the very first stitch right there, grab this loop here, bring it through the front like this. So this is going to be the first stitch. Like this. Now insert your needle there and then pull the yarn. Here we're going to pick up one more stitch. That's 2, 3, and I'm going into the very edge here. So that's 3, 4, 5, and then we're going to go here. That's 6, and then from here on you're just going to go every other stitch. So you're going to pick up stitches here along the side, and you're going to skip one and into the next, insert your needle and grab a stitch, and then skip one stitch and into the next, go in and grab a stitch. If I pick up one stitch for each row, it's going to be too many and it's going to be too crowded. So here you're just going to pretty much eyeball it as to where you're going to grab this loop from. I'm just going in and then I skip one stitch and then go in and skip one stitch. So you skip one and into the next, skip one and into the next, grab a loop. This is how I'm going to continue along this edge, so I'll meet you here at the end to show you what we need to do next. Okay, I have a total of 26 stitches now along this side, and I forgot to mention at the beginning that I'm going to use these 2.5mm knitting needles. If you don't have knitting needles that are smaller than what you're using, which is a 3mm, then it's fine. Just continue and do this next part using the same needles that we use to make the little bonnet. Okay, so now here what we're going to do is this is the yarn that we cut, so we're going to leave this alone here to the side, and we're going to grab our main yarn. Here we're going to knit these 17 stitches. So the first stitch we're going to knit. Okay, so knit the next. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. Okay, so now we're going to let go of this knitting needle, and with this same needle we're going to pick up 26 stitches along this side. So however way you did this part here, you're going to do the exact same thing here, so that we have the same number of stitches. I'm going to use this crochet hook to do this very first one, since that's on the other end. I did this stitch here as well. Like this, and then go along the very edge here and pick up your stitches. Now I did this next stitch, so just pick up this next stitch, skip one and into the next, go in, skip one and into the next, go in and grab a stitch. Continue along this like this until you come here to the end. I will meet you here to show you what we need to do next. Okay, I picked up 26 stitches here along this other side, so I have 26 stitches here, 17 in the middle, and then again 26 on this other end, for a total of 69 stitches for this first row. Now for the second row we're going to turn, and here what we're going to do is we're going to knit one, purl one, knit one, purl one. So this first one I'm going to knit, the next one I'm going to purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl. Okay, so continue like this all the way to the end, and I'll meet you there to show you what we need to do next. Okay, I'm here at the end. My last stitch here was a knit, so now I'm going to turn and I'm going to purl the first stitch. So here, purl your first stitch, and then knit the next, purl, knit, purl. Okay, this is all we're going to do. We're going to repeat these the same row where you knit and purl each one of the stitches. I'm not sure how many rows I'm going to do this for, but continue like this and I'll meet you at the end of this row to show you what we need to do next. Okay, I'm at the end of the 9th row, so in total I did 9 rows. So now for row 10 we're going to turn, and here we're going to cast off these stitches that we have here. If you want to make this part here longer, you can. I'm just going to do these 9 rows and then cast off on the 10th row. So here I'm going to knit the first stitch, purl the next stitch. Now bring this first stitch over the second stitch that we just purled, like this. Now the next stitch we're going to knit, bring this stitch over the stitch that we just knitted. The next stitch you're going to purl, and bring this stitch over the stitch that you just purled. And that's all I'm going to do all the way to the end. So continue like this and I'll meet you there to show you what we need to do next. Okay, I finished casting off all these stitches here. Now we're going to leave this yarn here pending. I just tied a knot here. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do here at the end, if I'm going to either put a ribbon or if I'm going to make something here, some kind of string. So I'm going to hold off that for a little bit. So I started closing this part here, and this is what it looks like on this side. So we're going to do this next. So we're going to go here on this side. We're going to, my yarn is here on the inside, so I'm going to insert my needle right here on this side so that I can come out right behind that first stitch right there. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go into one of the rows. So insert your hook. See how I'm going through both loops there? And then I'm going to pick up a stitch along the very edge. And the stitch that I'm going to pick up are, let's see, it's this little bar right here. Let's see. Right there. Okay. So insert your needle there and then insert the needle into the next row. Right there. See? Here's the row, so right in the very center, that's where I'm coming out. And then go back into the next row again. See, I came out here, so we're going to go into the next row right here. And then find the next stitch right there. And then go back into the next row on this side. And then go up a row here and find your next stitch, which is this one here. Now go back into the next row right there and then go up a row and then find your next stitch right there. And then go into the next row right there. Go up a row and then find your next stitch right there. And see, that's what it looks like. That's how we're going to close this part here. So continue like this and I'll meet you once this part here is done to show you what we need to do next. Okay, I finished closing here and then I had already done this side, so this part here is done. That's what it looks like. That's my little bonnet. Now what I'm going to do is, this is where we left off. I'm actually going to cut my yarn, which I already did, and I'm just going to pass this last stitch like this, and then I'm just going to hide that end. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to do an I-cord here. So to do that, we're going to go on this side and we're going to use double pointed needles. These are 2.75. You can use 3mm, you can use 2.5, whatever you have to do this, you can use. I just happen to have these. So here, we're going to go along the very edge, and I think I'm only going to pick up about 4 stitches. If you want to pick up 5, 6, or 7, that's fine. I'm going to see if I can do with 4. If not, I'll do 5. But here we're going to grab this loop. I've inserted my hook into this very corner stitch right there, and I'm actually going to do this with a crochet hook. The first one is always the hardest. So just bring this loop here. Here's your first stitch. Now you can either skip one row and go into the next and do the same thing. Pick up a stitch here. So that's 2. Skip one and into the next, go in. That's 3, 4. I think I'm going to do 5. So I'm going to pick up one last one here in this very end. Like this. Okay, so I picked up 5 stitches. Now I'm going to push my needle like this, and we're going to knit all of these stitches. So beginning here, knit the first stitch. This first row is always the hardest, so just patiently knit the first stitch. It's hard because the yarn is on this side. Now knit the next stitch, knit the third, knit the fourth, and knit the fifth. Okay, so that's 5 stitches. Now push your needle again, grab this other one, and do the same thing. You're going to knit. So knit the first stitch like this, knit the next, and so on. Okay, that's row 2. Okay, now again, push your needle and knit like this. I want to do a couple more rows so that you can see what it looks like. So here, see, once you pull on it and you do more rows, this here starts to close and your I-cord starts to form. Okay, so continue like this. I'm not sure how many rows I'm going to do, or until I have a certain measurement here of how long I want this I-cord to be. So continue like this and I'll meet you at the end of this row to show you how we're going to finish this part here. Okay, I finished making my I-cord. I did about 60 rows and it's measuring a little bit over 7 inches. Okay, so now here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish here. And the way that I'm going to finish here is, let's see, I'm going to use this crochet hook. This one is a 2.5 millimeter. I'm going to put all of these stitches here on my crochet hook, so like this. Like this. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a loop and pass it through all of these stitches here like this. See, like that. Now I'm going to chain 1 and I'm going to cut this yarn like this, and I'm going to pass the yarn like this so that that stitch there closes. Now with a needle, I'm going to pass it here, this end, and I'm going to go into this corner stitch right there. Right there. And I'm going to make a little knot here like this as well. Okay, so this part here is closed. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pass this needle through the very center and just push it all the way up, about that much. Now I'm going to pull here and then pull, and that's how we're going to finish this part here. Now I'm going to trim this and it's done. Now that's what it looks like. I went ahead and did this other end as well, and this is what it looks like right there, and there it is. Okay, so you can make this part here longer. Like I said, this is about 7 inches for me, and our little hat is done. Now I just need to block my little hat, so I'm just going to put a cloth over this like a towel and then just steam it a little bit, not too much, so that it sets in the stitches, and that's what it looks like. Our baby hat or baby bonnet is done. And I think it turned out super cute, and it was very easy to make. Now I also went ahead and did the same little bonnet using a bigger knitting needle, and I did it exactly in the same way. The only difference is that I used 4 millimeter knitting needles. So this little hat here, I would say it's for a baby between 9 and 12 months. Okay, so this has been today's tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.